he was here. I saw him.
Someone find Senator Avon. Senate will come out of recess. I call the Senate to order. I recognize Senator Bradley for a motion.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn from the late session.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion to adjourn passes. We are now in the early session. Are we echoing? I'd like to introduce our chaplain, Father Francis McCarty. He was just ordained earlier this month, so please let's congratulate him. The Senate will be attentive to our chaplain.
Let us pray. O God, author of our lives and source of all goodness, we give you thanks for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. We ask that you look upon these your servants, the members of the New Hampshire State Senate. Grant them harmony and peace in their discussions. Give them the wisdom, courage, and fortitude they need to lead your people. Give them prudent voices, listening ears, and open hearts as they work together to serve the constituents entrusted to their care. Watch over the people of the great state of New Hampshire. Through your intercession, may we all come to know joy, prosperity, and peace, and may we be protected from all evil. We ask all these things in your most holy name. Amen. Amen.
Senator Ava, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any introduction of guests? Well, if no one else is going to do it, I'll do it. Christy Merrill, our old chief of staff. We ready? You can sit down, Kavanaugh. Without objection, the clerk shall read the title of the veto message only.
That one right there.
Senate will be attentive to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 200, apportioning the congressional districts.
Question is, notwithstanding the governor's veto, shall Senate Bill 200 become law? Is there any discussion? Senator Soucy.
Mr. President, I rise in support of the veto of Senate Bill 200. We had many debates about redistricting here in this chamber, and I believe that the right course of action is to sustain this veto. The proposal before us would have made drastic changes, changes that really didn't need to take place, changes that the people of New Hampshire said that they didn't want. The proposal would have shuffled some of the state's largest cities, put Manchester and Nashua into one district, and this really should have truly been an exercise in simply balancing population, not the significant and more radical changes that are contained in this proposal. For those reasons, I would respectfully urge my colleagues to vote against overturning the governor's veto of Senate Bill 200. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Soucy. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the original bill, and certainly one of the things that Senator Soucy talked about, or excuse me, the senator from District 18 talked about was a balancing population. But when we look at the law, both the federal law and the state law, and we look at the other regulations that we have, and especially Supreme Court decisions in Manchester v. Gardner, population is the thing that they want to make sure that you are doing so that one population of one district and another district aren't completely disparate from each other. So with that, I know the way that this is going to go. I can count. And I would urge you not to vote yes.
Any further discussion? Senator Bradley,
Parliamentary inquiry.
state your inquiry.
If I believe that the veto should be overridden, would I vote yes? And if I believe that the veto should be sustained, would I vote no?
What you stated is the parliamentary position.
Well, we always need a refresher.
Further discussion? You ready for the roll call? A roll call is required. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
No.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator French.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
No.
Senator Daniels.
Yes.
Senator Avard.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
No.
Senator Carson.
Yes.
Senator Whitley.
No.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Soucy.
No.
Senator Birdsall.
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro.
No.
Senator Perkins Coca.
No.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
No.
Senator Morse.
Yes. Senator Bradley.
Apparently, my refresher didn't refresh. With apologies, I thought I outlined it pretty correctly. So since I failed in that, I would ask for reconsideration so that a member can correct their vote.
Senator Bradley, having voted on the prevailing yes side, the vote was 14-9, has asked for reconsideration. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You passed reconsideration. We'll try again. The clerk will call the roll on Senate Bill 200.
Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
No.
Senator Prentice.
No.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator French.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
No.
Senator Daniels.
Yes.
Senator Avard.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
No.
Senator Carson.
Yes.
Senator Whitley.
No.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Soucy.
No.
Senator Birdsall.
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro.
No.
Senator Perkins Coca.
No.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
No.
And Senator Morse.
Yes. The noes have it. The governor's veto on Senate Bill 200 is sustained, lacking the necessary two-thirds vote. The vote was 13-10. Senate will be in recess for God knows how long. Senate will be attentive to the clerk for a House message.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House of Representatives has passed a bill with the following title, in which passage of which it asks the concurrence of the Senate. House Bill 2023 FNA, making an appropriations to the Department of Energy for a state emergency fuel assistance program and a supplemental electric benefit, and relative to the electric low-income program fund.
Recognize Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate suspend all rules necessary to permit consideration at the present time of House Bill 2023 FNA. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Clerk will call the roll.
To do a roll.
No?
No?
Clerk won't call the roll.
Unless someone wants.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's less than two-thirds. I mean, less than a third. The ayes have it. The motion passes by the necessary two-thirds. I recognize Senator Bradley.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I move to introduce House Bill 2023 FNA and resolve that in accordance with the list in the possession of the Senate clerk, the following legislation shall be read by this motion, read a first and second time by the therein listed title.
You ready for the question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Recognize Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move ought to pass on House Bill 2023, and if I could speak to that motion, I would.
Senator Bradley moves ought to pass. The bill is now on second reading. Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I want to thank all of my colleagues for the spirit of which this bill comes to us today. I also want to thank my colleagues in the House, in particular the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker and the Chair of the House Finance Committee. I want to thank the Chair of the Senate Finance Committee. We have spent a lot of time trying to get a bill that, given the lateness of the session, but the direness of the emergency facing consumers in our state, that we have the necessary ability to suspend the rules, pass a bill, and get it signed all on the same day. It's somewhat unprecedented. It takes a lot of cooperation to do that. And I want to thank my colleagues again and thank my colleagues in the House. The bill does several different things. I'll just hit the highlights of the highlights. As everybody knows, the price of energy has skyrocketed in New Hampshire. The average price of home heating oil is somewhere in the range of $5 a gallon per the Googling I did last night, compared to about $2.80 for home heating oil a year ago. That's an 80% increase. People are fearful as they're trying to pre-buy, and they're really fearful of what might happen when the weather gets cold, and depending on the vagaries of the weather, if it's really cold, what it's going to do to pricing of whatever kind of energy people have to heat their homes with. The same is true for electricity. Prices have soared. Hopefully, as increments of every 6 months for default service, the price will come down, but right now, people are struggling with high energy costs. We can debate the causes of it all day long, but what we can't debate is the fact that hardworking New Hampshire families are struggling and need help. Mr. President, thanks to your leadership over the years in being, along with a number of other people, but in particular your leadership, the architect of a number of good budgets that have helped to grow the economy of the state of New Hampshire, we have a budget surplus of $468 million. Now, we have spent a considerable amount of that on property tax relief, and that's a good thing. We have helped towns with roads and bridges, with water. We've reduced the statewide property tax. We've helped with retirement. Our friend from District 9's bill that will dedicate 30% of the rooms at meals tax has put $60 million back into property tax relief in our communities. But we also have an emergency right now. And the fact that we have had the fiscal management, the prudent management, and the growth of our economy through measures like business tax relief, better workers' compensation rates, have led to the surplus that we have. And there's nothing more important, at least in my view, of working together to make sure that some of that surplus is dedicated to those who need the help the most. Now, the LIHEAP program is a federal program that actually is going to have more money in it this year than in the past. That is dedicated to people that are at 60% of the state median income average, which for a family of four, I believe, is about $72,000. What this bill does is, using state dollars, expands eligibility for assistance to 75% of the median state income, which is about $90,000 for a family of four. There are about 50,000 households that potentially, if they apply, could benefit for assistance with home heating this winter. It will be administered by the CAPS. They will receive money for the administration costs, but the CAP agencies, Community Action Program, do the LIHEAP income verification. Then we've taken an idea that the governor proposed, and I have to thank the governor for his leadership in identifying the problem and identifying the fact that we do have the surplus necessary to fund this. This bill will dedicate $200 to every person that qualifies for the 75% state median income. So potentially someone that qualifies will receive $650 of much needed relief. The third piece of the bill fixes a problem with the existing energy assistance program and dedicates $7 million, which is necessary for that program to function also. I believe this is an excellent bill. It's a timely bill. It's an emergency. It's a beautiful day in September right now. But I think we all know what cold weather is like in January, December, February, March. This bill is necessary to help those hardworking New Hampshire families that are going to be burdened and already are burdened, quite frankly, with high electric rates. So with that, Mr. President, happy to answer any questions, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator Bradley. Senator Soucy for a floor amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I do have an inquiry regarding dividing the question. I would request that when the vote is taken, we divide the question to first vote on sections 1 and 5, and then vote on the balance of the bill. Thank you, Mr. President. And yes, at this time, I wish to introduce floor amendment, and I regret that I don't have the number right in front of me. 2134.
Senator Soucy offers floor amendment 2134. We'll clarify the 1 and the 5 and the votes once we deal with the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I will defer to my colleagues to speak to the amendment.
President, I rise in support of the floor amendment offered by Senator Soucy, Amendment 2022-2134S. What you have in front of you is an amendment which does two things. While we all agree with Senator Bradley that the problem in front of us is urgent, we also know that there are solutions that exist that we in New Hampshire could have and that we could pass to avoid ending up in the same sort of emergency situation again. So what you have in front of you is an amendment which lifts the cap on net metering here in New Hampshire. Net metering is an artificial regulation which keeps renewable projects small. If they could be bigger, we would see more of them. And with more renewable energy, there would be competition in electricity generation to bring prices down. The sooner we do this, the sooner our ratepayers will see lower energy prices. And it's too bad that we haven't been able to do this in years before, but we could always start now. Secondly, we have an amendment which adds $10 million to our low-income energy efficiency program. This is administered by our counties, and these energy efficiency programs help to weatherize low-income homes so that we can reduce the monthly utility bill for those most in need at a time when our energy prices are so high. This was a bipartisan agreement in spirit when we saved our energy efficiency programs last year through HB 549, and we hope you will support it again today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Perkins Coker. Further discussion on floor amendment 2134. Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I rise to support this amendment. And, I'm awfully glad that we are going to try to get some money out to folks. Folks are going to be hurting, and I'm very, very pleased that we'll try to do that. I'm going to have something to say about the first part of the bill. I think it was later on when we dividing the question. I think it's unfortunate that what was seen as a practical way to get some funding out, that the decision was made to politicize it, and I think it was unfortunate, and we'll have a chance to talk about that. But I do want to pull out one thing there. This phrase about how it's prudent to enact one-time relief. Prudent? Well, I'm glad we're getting some one-time relief, but prudence would have meant that you didn't have the problem in the first place because you'd taken care of energy supply and diversified it the way that we have been trying to do. I mean, why is it that this moving from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts, which, by the way, was approved in this body, and we even once voted to override a veto of the governor, we finally, by doing some backflips, got the 5 megawatts for community aggregation and counties, and good. But if it's good enough for them, why isn't it good enough for everybody? Why can't we bring power to the people, let people take charge of their energy needs? Why can't we do that when other states are doing it? And by the way, the jobs in the renewable energy economy are bursting up, and the cost of energy produced in these ways is dramatically lower than the price of gas and other sources. And I just say, I was thinking back to, some years ago when we used to have the top 40, and they always talk about those bands who are one-hit wonders, right? And whatever happened to them? Well, what we have is one-time spending. That's the one-hit wonder of New Hampshire, one-time spending. But one-time spending doesn't make up for long-term blunders. What we could do and should do on energy to diversify our energy sources. And that's one of the reasons that lift the cap right away. That means we're going to diversify the energy source. The second thing that we need to do, and as we did in 459 when the PUC blew that up, we've all voted unanimously for it because we love that program so much, because we know the cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, right? So why can't we put another $10 million? We got the money, right? The wallet is fat and it's sitting in a pocket. We could put $10 million right now. It could be spent by this winter so people have warmer homes, don't use as much fuel, have more efficient appliances. So we've all voted for that unanimously before. It's what we should do. And what I worry about here is that You know, on energy, we have become a state of summer soldiers. You know, we have not done the work over the years that we have needed to do to diversify our energy source and bring in lower cost, non-fossil fuel sources. And now, you know, summer soldiers, but you know, they say in the Game of Thrones, winter is coming, right? And you think it's bad now, wait until the forward market right now for gas in February, March is $48 to $50, and we're screaming at 20 right now, right? So this is what we could do, and this is why we need in this amendment to start taking those steps. And you know, I just have to ask, you know, why are we so helpless? Why are we so beholden to natural gas? You know, we're cooking with gas, right? And with my apologies to my colleague from District 3 who loves the Rolling Stones, Jumping Jack Flash, it's a gas, 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 right? But, you know, gas has turned out to be a flash in the pans, and guess what? You're cooking with gas right now. You get burnt on your energy prices. So the states around us, okay, Massachusetts pretty regularly now, 20% of their energy needs are coming in from solar right now. We're about 1%, whoopee, right? They are doing things to have long-term procurement contracts, whether it's on offshore wind and other renewable energies. Look down in New York where they just signed a 20-year guarantee at 7.6 cents a kilowatt hour. Well, we couldn't vote for that up here. You know, we voted that kind of thing down. We have a chance to do something about this. We really do. We can take charge. We can bring power to the people here. We can do something, but we've got to start now to do some solutions. I'm glad money's going to go out. It's great. Open up the fat wallet, give people, you know, I'm all for it, going to vote for that. But I will tell you, I was thinking about this, reminded me back in summer of '72. I was up working in Vermont as a carpenter on a horse farm in a school. And, you know, I said, we got to replace the roof on one of these dormitories and on a barn, too. And, you know, I don't know, it never rains really that hard. So we had the most hellacious rains. You know, we had like 12 inches of rain. The roads were blown out. Vermont was isolated for a couple weeks. And it's raining, and the school, the boss comes and bangs on the door. I'm just working at carpenter. He bangs on the door and says, oh, there's water coming in the roof. You got to go out there. Now, I was making $5 an hour. Of course I'm going to go out and do it. So I'm out there in the rain with my hammer and a couple of shingles getting blown around, trying to patch that. And I said, you know, it might have been a whole lot better if we had just fixed the roof in the first place. So here we are. This amendment, you know, we've got the money. It frees up energy. The proven bill. We've voted for both parts of these before. Let's do it. What's the harm? Let's do it. Let's do something that takes care of this problem rather than just the one-time wonders, the one-time spenders. Thank you, Mr. President.
From District 4. Senator Waters.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator, and I agree with a lot with what you just said. However, you asked a poignant question. What is the harm? What if we pass this and it goes to the House and they say no? Do we jeopardize this relief in the process of trying to get two birds with one stone?
Well, thank you, Senator, for your question. And I guess I right now should bow down and kowtow to the House, I suppose. But we're the Senate. We have good policy here. We voted for it before. That's our job. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Further discussion. Senator Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Amendment 2134. First of all, I want to thank our federal delegation for all the support, both on the infrastructure improvements that were described earlier, as well as on increased LIHEAP benefits. I'm sure every one of us in this room has already seen an increase in their energy bills. Across New Hampshire, families are struggling with some of the highest energy costs this state has ever seen. And electricity rates were second only to Hawaii, and they have an excuse, they're an island. We know beyond a shadow of doubt that the only way to guarantee long-term reductions in energy costs is to make real investments in renewable energy. Efforts like raising the cap on net metering and increasing the state investments into our weatherization programs would put us in charge of our energy future while dramatically reducing our environmental impact. And much of that has already passed this body across party lines. If we now pass HB 2023 without this amendment, we'll be delivering short-term relief, which is much needed, and I'm fully in support of it. But without the amendment, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. We would not be addressing the underlying issue, which is that New Hampshire has fallen dramatically behind in the renewable energy economy. With this amendment, we address not only the current energy crisis, but take a step forward, becoming national leaders in renewable energy. Without it, Granite Staters will continue to pay the price. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, much of which we have already supported as a body, and do what is right for our present and also for our future generations. Thank you, Mr. President.
It's my last meeting. And I rise today for two reasons. One is to support the underlying bill. One thing that is clear is we need some relief. We have gotten into this situation, and people are going to be hurting this year. So I think we need to, though, take this long-term approach that my colleagues have been addressing. As we implement this policy, I checked in with our community action program in my region, Cheshire County, Sullivan County. The Southwestern Community Services is our CAP agency. And that CAP agency believes we're on the right track, getting beyond the cliff of 60% of median income does leave a vulnerable income group and vulnerable households. So good for the short term. But I'm reminding in this discussion of the long-term issues that we have, and I think back to 2018 and running for re-election and attending a brownfields meeting in Manchester for all of New England. And there were a lot of vendors there. There was a lot of promise about, hey, the market is coming. The tax credits are out there. And these brownfields are eligible for multiple tax breaks and development of alternative fuel production. And every vendor said, you know, if we're going to invest, our costs to invest in New Hampshire for a 1 megawatt plant at the time, now maybe there are some that could get up to 5, but a lot that can't. They said our development costs are exactly the same. Exactly the same as a 20 megawatt plant that they were contemplating in Vermont and in Massachusetts and in Connecticut. And guess what? That's where the money went. That's where the developers went with their investors. And here we are. It's now 2022, and we're still frozen in the same place, and the outcome's going to be exactly the same. The jobs, the investment, the opportunity to have a diversified fuel mix in this state is going to be exactly the same as it was back when I started here in 2016. And that's disappointing to me. So I really believe that this amendment that we have on the table before us today, this is important. It's important to lift the cap on net metering and bring that investment into New Hampshire. And it's important to invest in energy conservation because we know that our neighboring states have invested into it. And we can see that their distribution costs have been going down as our share of the overall mix has been constant and as a result going up. So
let's make the investment. Let's do us both. Let's do both of these. Let's do something that provides short-term relief. Let's do something that puts New Hampshire back in the market. Let's make us competitive for the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Khan. Senator Gannon.
President, I disagree with Senator from 24 and Senator from District 10, my good brethren up here. But the problem with energy costs lie with our federal delegation and the president. He sent the wrong message years ago, turned people off. Day one, he closed the pipeline. We knew that natural energy, God has blessed us with an abundance of natural gas, which was 3 cents a kilowatt hour 2 years ago. The good senator from District 4 wanted us to lock in at 7.6 cents a kilowatt hour when natural gas was 3 cents. I have talked with the president. I sat and had a dinner with the president of UNH, and I said, he told me about all the wind and solar and all these wonderful developments. And I said, I'm all for those things. But I said, natural gas is 3 cents a kilowatt hour. What are you doing to burn it cleaner? Why can't we burn that cleaner? Something that we have 300 years worth in the ground. That's the problem. We're not using the resources we have in the country. It is not a failure on this body's part. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Gannon, Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. The expression pig in a poke comes to mind when I read this. Due process when we have a bill is that we have the public hearings, and you'd be surprised, well, hopefully you aren't surprised, by the amount of information that we learn during those public hearings. Consumer advocate often comes to those hearings and tells us what he thinks about the bill. But I'm being asked today, when I received this 10 minutes ago maybe, to understand exactly how, for purposes of accounting, et cetera, a whole page of very jargonistic, shall we say, maybe I can coin that word, and try to understand that and make a decision. And I'm not so sure that all of those things are really going to be things that we needed to do, which was the purpose of the bill to start with. You're asking me to, and I'm an electrical engineer, okay, by education. Served as an engineering manager for a lot of years. You give me this, I don't understand it right now. And if I don't understand it, guess what? I'm not going to vote for it. I'm on the Energy Committee. We did a lot with the different things this year. I don't understand it. I'm wondering how some of the rest of you who got this in the same time period can understand this amendment and know how it affects the people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gray. Senator Waters with a question.
Yes, if I may, the senator from District 6.
Senator Gray.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Did the underlying bill have a public hearing?
No. The underlying bill, though, takes an existing program and changes the percentage from, make sure that I quote this correctly, changes the percentage, from 65 to 75 in the bill, so that it is something that is much more easily to understand than changing different things about net metering and what is and what isn't part of the ISO network, what is and what isn't a network resource, what is or what isn't an asset considered by the ISO New England, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
If I may follow up. Perhaps this question will help you understand the bill and refresh your memory. Do you recall seeing this exact same language in the bill that we dealt with when we raised the net metering cap from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatt for the community aggregation and the expansion of it this year? Because this is basic boilerplate that we already passed and had hearings on for those bills that deals with ISO New England and FERC.
The question was, do I remember that this is the same language? From sitting here in this room There is no way that I can tell you that this is or is not the same language in that bill. And if you had gotten this to me a week before or whatever, you know, I might have been able to look at the different things that were out there that were, you know, notes from the committee meetings or other things. But right now, I got this. I can't use my computer because it's Senate rules to go look at different things. I can't get input from my constituents. I can't do a lot of things. But I agree that they need assistance. And the assistance that's in the original bill is what I can support.
Thank you, and I'm glad, because I know you don't like surprises, to show you where we heard on this language and what you voted for. Thank you.
All right, that was a little liberty. Senator Bradley to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think what has started as a well-intentioned bill to help people that are struggling in New Hampshire with an emergency situation has suddenly devolved into something that's quite partisan. There's a reality factor here, ladies and gentlemen. The reality factor is this. If this amendment passes, it's guaranteed that the bill dies when it goes back to the House. That is the reality. So a vote in favor of this amendment, which is unfortunately a poison pill, is a vote against $43 million of emergency assistance to hardworking New Hampshire families. That is the reality. Now, my friend from District 24, you should listen carefully to what I'm going to say next, and my friend from District 4. I remember in 2020, when my friend from District 18 and I spent night after night, day after day, trying to salvage the 2020 session. Remember? It was a pandemic. We did get telemedicine passed. We did a lot of good things that year. And we had the ability to pass net metering that the governor would have signed that year. My friend from District 4, do you remember the conversation we had on a Sunday afternoon when I begged you to put the bipartisan spirit of this body and get that bill passed? Do you remember that, don't you? Sorry. I remember it. And so here we are again. So we delayed net metering for municipal or municipal hosts for a year because there was somebody running for governor that wanted to use it as a political weapon. That's the reality. And so today, we have the same issue. Nobody's supported net metering more than I have, or more than my friend from District 12, whose bill successfully is now law that this body passed and municipals are able to do net metering. That's what we could get across the finish line. The only thing that matters today is the finish line. Why does that matter the most? Because people are struggling with inflation and soaring energy prices. That's the reality. So we can have a debate about net metering. That's a great debate to have. I'm going to support it. I always have. Energy efficiency, the same thing. We had bipartisan support, again, for our friend from District 12's bill to fix a PUC ruling earlier this year. We got that done. This amendment, unfortunately, would torpedo the entire bill. And by torpedoing the entire bill, a lot of people, 50,000 households, would be denied the relief that this bill represents. That's what is at stake. A yes vote on this amendment denies 50,000 people the relief that they so need. That's the reality. And I, for one, deal in reality, in this building especially. So I ask my colleagues to do the right thing, help the working families that need help the most. Don't play the politics that happened in 2020. Don't do it, please. It's too bad because a lot of people have worked pretty hard to get this bill where it is. I ask my colleagues for a no vote because that's the only way to help the 50,000 families that need our help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Bradley. Senator Whitley.
President, I rise in support of this amendment. And in fact, I rise in response to something my friend from District 3 said. You know, we are elected in this body to come up with solutions. In fact, we have an obligation to develop solutions to help our constituents. And when I talk to my constituents, what I hear from them the most is high property taxes, high energy costs. I know that many of you hear the same thing from your constituents. And when I'm looking to solve a problem, I'm looking to solve a problem efficiently and for the long term. This amendment, in addition to this bill, does both. Fixes the issue in the short term and provides real solutions for the long term to lower energy costs for our constituents now and in the long term. We have an obligation to do that. So, contrary to my colleague from District 3, a vote no on this bill is putting politics ahead of solutions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Whitley. Further discussion? You ready for the question? The question is on the adoption of Floor Amendment 2134. Roll call has been requested by Senator Soucy, seconded by Senator Birdsall. Ready for the question? Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaida.
No.
Senator Bradley.
No.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
Senator Gray.
No.
Senator French.
No.
Senator Ward. No. Senator Ricciardi.
No.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
Senator Daniels.
No.
Senator Avard.
No.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
Senator Carson.
No.
Senator Whitley.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
No.
Senator Soucy.
Yes.
Senator Birdsall.
No.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
No.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
And Senator Morse.
No. The amendment's defeated 10 to 13. The bill is still on second reading and open for further discussion or amendments. The first vote is going to be on sections 1 and 5. Any discussion? Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to say a few words about the findings here. As I said earlier, I think it's quite unfortunate that this bill that we all want to vote for came over to us with a highly politicized set of findings. And I think it's, unfortunate we didn't get this bill to the very last minute and so couldn't have an amendment prepared to it. But the findings here are highly politicized, and I think that is what has lent a partisan nature to what should have been a relatively simple bill to send some money out the door. And I think it's unfortunate if there are those in this body who feel held hostage by the leadership of the other body, and I think that may have been the case for the minority leadership there, given a Scogan's choice as to what is in this bill that we all want to do, but guess what? You're going to have to swallow a poison pill called these findings. Now, let me just make a few remarks about what's here and why we should vote against these findings, not just, one side, but all of us, to say if we want to reject this kind of politicization and partisanship in what should have been a reasonable bill, then maybe we can all decide to get rid of the findings because they're not necessary. And I think they do damage to what we can do in supporting this bill. So, heating costs in the state of New Hampshire, unprecedented potential catastrophe. Well, okay, at least we ought to ask, why is that? And despite what we heard from the senator from District 23, go talk to Granite Shore Power folks, go talk to Unitil, go talk to Liberty, go talk to Eversource. Why are gas prices high? They're not 3 cents anymore. Why are they so high? It's because pipeline capacity in New England. That's a long-term issue, pipeline capacity. There's proposals to increase pipeline here. We got the Algonquin, we got this, but we don't have the pipeline capacity. Now, previously, in the last couple of years, we had the terrible spike a few years ago. In the last couple of years, we've been able to avoid those spikes. Why? Because we got LNG coming in. Do I need to remind you where the LNG is going right now and where it's going this winter? It's going over to Europe. And why? Well, not something because of, what our country did. And I think that on number 3, I heard that there had a report the other day that there's a huge math deficit that has developed during COVID in the elementary schools. And I just didn't realize the math deficit had also now extended to the legislature. Frankly, you want to talk about federal policies, let's remember the previous president goosed up the deficit by $7 trillion. It's already come down $2 trillion under the current president. And let us remember, too, in terms of renewable energy, that absolutely the brakes were put on offshore wind 4 years ago. We'd have steel in the water potentially out here bringing in 25 to 30 gigawatts of power out of the Gulf of Maine. We have it already running off the southern coast, bringing in maybe 9 to 12 gigawatts. Those projects would be done, and we wouldn't really care about the price of gas at that point. And then also this notion of the Federal Reserve. I was an economics major, okay? And you raise interest rates to bring down inflation, okay? That's what you do. It can be painful. Remember back to early 80s when interest rates hit 18%? Well, break the back of inflation. We were all for it back then, and they've got to do something. These are just patently wrong, and there we are. Yeah, we don't have any control over some worldwide events, and let's remember too. COVID, anybody? I got my new Omicron booster here, a little sore. I'm feeling good about that. But, the supply chain still has COVID, right? And it's just rolling out one thing after another. Thank goodness the rail strike has been averted. But let's remember, we had COVID and supply chain, and it's affected everything else. I just want to say something about fiscally responsible leadership. We always all vote for balanced budgets, and I'm glad our economy's been doing pretty well in the state. But let's remember that we bought $3.2 billion of federal money in the state. Our budget better be doing pretty well if we have all that money washing through and helping boost our business. And remember, PPP loans kept all the businesses going, right, and kept the workers working. That's why we got through that, and I'm glad about that. But let us say that the favorable economic, $400 million surplus. Well, and we heard a list of some of the things that we did, but let's remember that we are underfunded our schools. We are still underfunding our municipalities. We're still underfunding the kind of investments that we could make for our people. And so I'm glad we're going to spend some of it. But I tell you, to me, it doesn't sound like responsible budgeting when that money is sitting there and we didn't do the kinds of things that we could have done. Well, there we are. I'll complain. We all want to get out of here. I agree. People just but it's just a shame. It's a shame. I'd like to vote for this bill clean. Why don't we just get rid of these findings, huh? And then we can sing Kumbaya, and we can forget about the remarks about things being partisan. Let's just take the findings out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Waters. Any further discussion on sections 1 and 5? Senator Gaeta.
Mr. President, I am in awe of the clever ploy to politicize findings that are statements of fact. Well done, my friend, from District 4. But there's not a single word in Section 1's findings that isn't a fact. There's no blame being placed. There's no finger being pointed. They just merely state facts with which the families and citizens of our state are going to have to deal. Okay? This amendment that was attempted, okay, would have sabotaged what we are doing to help our citizens. This is going to be a brutal winter. In fact, projections are it's going to be worse than last year. Okay? So to sit with a straight face and state that findings of fact have politicized the message we're sending to our constituents leaves me in a state of amazement. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Gaeta. We all done? Roll call on the first vote, which is sections 1 and 5, has been asked for by Senator Soucy and seconded by Senator Birdsall. Are you ready for the question? The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaeta.
Yes.
Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
No.
Senator Prentice.
No.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator French.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
No.
Senator Daniels.
Yes.
Senator Avard.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
No.
Senator Carson.
Yes.
Senator Whitley.
No.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Soucy.
No.
Senator Birdsall.
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro.
No.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
No.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
No.
And Senator Morse.
Yes. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted 13 to 10. The second vote is on the remainder of the bill. Any discussion? Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to make you smile. I want to rise in support of this, and I also, I do want to thank Senator Bradley and the others who have worked on this. I know it was a long slog to get all the parties together on something that we could do, and I'm glad we're doing something. And I want to express particularly my appreciation for the very last section of the bill. We knew, because of what the PUC had said that in a hearing a couple weeks ago, that if we didn't raise that cap, which was, we needed to have, had been in the bill that we passed last session to move this program over to the Department of Energy, and we need to keep that $1 million in there because that made sense, but the PUC said they'd blow up the program and just stop collecting the money if we didn't do this fix. It's good we got it done now, rather than having to try to hurry up something in January. Sends a clear message to the PUC, just leave this alone for a couple of years, we got this. And I did want to just say thanks for making sure that this piece of this bill came forward and to mention that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Waters. Any further discussion? Senator Sherman.
Mr. President, I will be brief. I just want to express my gratitude to the senator from District 3 for his work on this. It is great that we can hopefully, on this roll call vote, express unanimity in working for the people of New Hampshire. This is a good way to make sure that everybody stays warm this winter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Sherman. Further discussion? Senator Khan.
President. To my colleagues today and to those who continue on into the next session, I want to say, I feel like I'm watching the Patriots offense. 5-yard gains are going to eventually lead to a score, but when the rest of the teams are passing downfield with 20-yard passes, they're going to rack up more points. That's what we're watching in New England, and that's where I ask that you aim in the future, because it's going to be a stronger offense that's going to make New Hampshire competitive. I hope you take those steps in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Khan. Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since you brought up the Patriots, as I recall, the downfield pass in last Sunday's game bounced off an opposing person's hand and was intercepted and obliterated that drive and maybe obliterated the game. That's the risk you play when you try to go downfield with amendments and dividing the question. Let's just pass this bill and relieve the anxiety of around 50,000 households. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion. Kavanaugh, you weren't raising your hand, were you? Okay. The second vote is on the remainder of the bill. You ready for the question? Roll call has been requested by Senator Soucy, seconded by Senator Avi. Something different. You ready for the question? Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaida.
Yes.
Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator French.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
Senator Daniels.
Yes.
Senator Avard.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
Senator Carson.
Yes.
Senator Whitley.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
Yes.
Senator Soucy.
Yes.
Senator Birdsell.
Yes.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Poca.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Morse.
Yes. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted 23-0, and it's ordered to third reading. Thank you. I recognize Senator Bradley.
Were there no, this is a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President, there were no vetoes that are coming over?
Senator Bradley, we're just dealing with this issue right now, so that the House knows.
Oh, I'm
we can
sorry.
plead.
I'm very sorry. I misread my script. You know, I can't do a refresher. I can't read the script. I need glasses. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that House Bill 2023, having been ordered to third reading by this resolution, read a third time, all titles be the same as adopted, and be ordered by the Senate to be passed at the present time in the early session. Thank you.
Ready for the question? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it. Nothing yet? Okay. Senator Soucy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this time, I wish to remove Senate Bill 436 from the table.
Senate is in recess. Senate will come out of recess. Okay, the motion is to remove Senate Bill 436 from the table. Are you ready for the question? Senator Perkins Coker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you. If I know that since we last voted on this bill, the U.S. Supreme Court has overturned Roe versus Wade, and that the decision to codify abortion rights has been explicitly put in the hands of individual states, and if you further know, as I do, that SB 436 would codify the protections afforded under Roe and would not change existing law already in place, would I now vote to remove SB 436 from the table?
If you're in favor of taking Senate Bill 436 off the table, you're going to say aye. If you're opposed, you're going to say no. Senator Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
If I know that across the nation, pregnant women are already suffering the consequences of Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, and I further know that the national conversation has already shifted to a federal 15-week abortion ban, would I now vote to suspend the rules to remove SB 436 from the table and allow this body to put into statute a woman's right to choose to have an abortion in New Hampshire? Thank you, Mr. President.
If you're in favor of taking Senate Bill 436 off the table, you're going to say aye. If you're opposed, you're going to say no. Senator Carson.
President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I knew that we were 4 months past the deadline on this bill, would I vote no? Thank you very much.
If you're in favor of taking Senate Bill 436 off the table, you would say aye. If you're opposed, you'll say no. Senator Whitley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you. If I know that recent polling indicates that 6 in 10 New Hampshire voters disapprove of the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade, and if I further know that women's rights to safe and legal abortion are in jeopardy without being explicitly protected in state law, and that New Hampshire is the only state in New England without state-level protections for abortion, would I now vote to suspend the rules to remove SB 436 from the table? Thank you, Mr. President.
If you're in favor of Senate Bill 436 off the table, you're going to say aye. If you're opposed, you're going to say no. A roll call has been requested by Senator Avard, seconded by Senator Gaida. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaida.
No.
Senator Bradley.
No.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
Senator Gray.
No.
Senator French.
No.
Senator Ward.
No.
Senator Bishardi.
No.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
Senator Daniels.
No.
Senator Avard.
No.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
Senator Carson.
No.
Senator Whitley.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Senator Reagan.
No.
Senator Soucy.
Yes.
Senator Birdsell.
No.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coker.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
No.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Morse.
No. You've defeated taking Senate Bill 436 off the table 10 to 13. Do we know where the House is on? Okay. Do we want to? Do we have the presentations?
Things over there, so you're going to have to get the aides up there if you're going to do that.
For 5 minutes. Yes, without objection, the clerk is instructed to enter all House messages into the Senate Journal.
Ready.
Senate will be attentive to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1454, relative to permits for siting of new landfills. That's it.
The question is, notwithstanding the governor's veto, shall House Bill 1454 become law? Is there any discussion?
Senator Bradley.
State your inquiry.
Hopefully I'll get it right this time. If I want to override the governor's veto, would I vote yes, Mr. President? And if I want to sustain the governor's veto, would I vote no? Is that correct?
If you're going to override the governor's veto, you're going to say yes. If you're going to sustain the governor's veto, you're going to say no. A roll call is required. Are you ready for the question? The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Gaida.
No.
Senator Bradley.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
Senator Gray.
No?
Senator French.
No.
Senator Ward.
No.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
Senator Daniels.
No.
Senator Avard.
No.
Senator Rosenwald.
Yes.
Senator Carson.
No.
Senator Whitley.
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh.
No.
Senator Reagan.
No.
Senator Soucy.
Yes.
Senator Birdsell.
No.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
Senator Gannon.
No.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Morse.
No. The noes have it. The governor's veto on House Bill 1454 is sustained, lacking the necessary two-thirds vote. Do we have the last bill? No. Senate will be in recess for Senate will come out of recess. Yes. I recognize Senator Bradley for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn from the early session, that the business of the late session be in order at the present time, that all bills and resolutions ordered to third reading be by this resolution read a third time, all titles be the same as adopted, and that they be passed at the present time.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The early session is adjourned. We are now in the late session. Are there any announcements to come before the Senate? Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to read a letter from our former colleague, Senator Hennessy, and the letter dated June 7th, 2022, directed to you, Mr. President, states, Dear President Morse, please accept this letter of resignation effective today, June 7th at 3:30 p.m. As you know, I am submitting this resignation shortly before being sworn in to continue serving this great state of New Hampshire as the Deputy Secretary of State. Although I am looking forward to this exciting new opportunity, I am sad to leave the Senate. It has been my sincere honor to work with my 23 wonderful Senate colleagues representing the people of Senate District 1. Under your leadership, we were able to accomplish many great things for Granite Staters during the extremely challenging pandemic. Thank you for your mentorship, and thank you to all the hardworking Senate staff members. Sincerely, Senator Aaron Hennessy.
Thank you, Senator Bradley. Today is Veto Day. Unlike any other session day, it brings down the curtain on 2 years of extraordinary legislative accomplishment, something that everyone in our chamber today should take tremendous pride in. Veto Day is also a time for some senators to say goodbye while others begin to look ahead. As your Senate President, I want to thank our departing colleagues for their service, your sacrifice, your contributions to this institution and to this great state that we all love so much. I'd like the aides to come forward. I'd like to recognize, we have engraved clocks so that you can't forget us here in New Hampshire for the senators that are leaving, and we've asked your aides to present them to you. Senator Bob Guida. Senator Harold French. Senator Jay Kahn. Senator Kevin Kavanaugh. Senator John Reagan. Senator Tom Sherman. When our clerk, Tammy Wright, calls the roll in January, new senators take your seats. But be assured, all of you will be missed and remembered because each one of you has left your own special mark. I want to just say one short thing about the presidency. It's truly been an honor. Thank you. further remarks? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to make it brief. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. I thank you for your service to the state. I thank you for your friendship. Life's all about relationships. We'll continue that relationship as long as we live. Thank you.
Anyone else? Senator Soucy.
Mr. President, I too want to say goodbye to someone today, an extraordinary member of our staff, Jessica Esklin, who is already getting teary, and I haven't even said anything yet. Jessica is an extraordinary person, very resourceful, very articulate, an amazing, amazing person, lifting us all up and supporting all of us with an enormous respect for the institution, and we are all going to miss her very much. So thank you, Jessica.
Anyone else? Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much. I want to, like Senator Soucy, talk about our great press person, Carol Alfano, who has served in this role twice now. She is leaving tomorrow. We wish her well. She has done a great job. Godspeed in your next adventures. Thank you. And you didn't think I was going to let you off the hook, did you, Senator Morse? It has, I think, been an honor for all 24 of us to have served under your leadership, your mentorship, your friendship. You have brought dignity, honor, integrity. Those are words that are not often associated with the likes of us, but you have brought dignity, honor, integrity, hard work, bipartisanship, and courage of convictions to this job. So on Tuesday morning, before the polls open, I shared a sunrise picture with you, you remember. It was a gorgeous sunrise. There will be many, many gorgeous sunrises in your future. All of us wish you well. Godspeed. We love you, man. We love you.
Senator Carson.
It has been a great honor to call you, Mr. President. I have known you for over 40 years, and you are probably one of the most honorable men that I have ever met in my life. You have provided the leadership that we needed in order to move our state forward, especially during a very, very troubling time. I'd like to thank you, but I'd also like to thank your family, because we in this room all know that we can't do this job without the support and love of our family. And we all know how precious Susan and Emma are to you and the sacrifices they've made so you could be here with us and you could serve the state and the Senate. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Enough. Besides my wife, Susan, and Emma, some pretty special women are in this room. Christy Merrill. Shannon Gerard. Deb Van der Beek. And I did get presented with a photo this morning, and Tammy wasn't smiling, but Tammy Wright. I said I want to leave this with what I told you. I believe in the honor of this institution, and it's been an honor to serve with you, so thank you. Any further business? I recognize Senator Bradley for a motion.
One more time, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the business of the day being completed.
Senator Bradley. Without objection, all personal privileges and unanimous consent shall be entered into the permanent journal of the Senate. Is there any further business? Seeing none, Senator Bradley.
I guess you'll learn now. One more time. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the business of the day being completed, that the Senate recess for the purposes of sending and receiving messages and processing enrolled bill reports and amendments upon completion. The Senate will stand adjourned to the call of the chair.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The Senate is adjourned to the call of the chair.